Welcome, brave souls, to the aromatic world of the Fuller, the Roman Empire's unsung heroes of laundry. Imagine your laundry day involves not just soap and water, but also buckets, no vats, of stale urine. Yes, you heard that right. The Romans, ever the innovators, used urine's ammonia to clean and bleach their togas. Fancy a career change yet? Let's set the scene. Fullers worked in workshops, or philoniki, stomping on cloth submerged in this pungent liquid. It was a full-body workout with a nose-wrinkling twist. Picture a group of workers, their calves toned from endless stomping, in a synchronized dance that no one wanted front-row seats for. Why urine? Well, ammonia is a powerful cleaning agent, and urine was plentiful and free. Romans had public urinals specifically to collect it for the fullers. Talk about community spirit! Citizens would relieve themselves, contributing to the communal peapot, which fullers would collect and use. It's recycling, Roman style. Fullers weren't just stomping around in pee for fun, though. Their job was crucial. After the initial wash, the cloth was rinsed, beaten, stretched, and brushed to a pristine condition. Fullers were the reason why Romans could strut around in dazzlingly white togas instead of looking like they'd just wrestled a mud monster. Of course, being a fuller had its downsides. The smell was, let's just say, memorable. Fullers often set up shop on the outskirts of towns, not just for space, but also to keep the eye-watering stench away from sensitive noses. Imagine coming home from a long day of stomping and someone says, "You smell like hard work." In the case of a fuller, they really meant it. The life of a gladiator. Glamorous, thrilling, and deadly. Imagine stepping into the Colosseum, the crowd chanting your name, but knowing that today might just be the day you become a permanent part of history. Let's peel back the layers of this blood-soaked career and see what being a gladiator was really like. First off, not all gladiators were volunteers looking for fame and glory. Many were slaves, prisoners of war, or condemned criminals. They were thrown into the arena not for their love of combat, but because they had no choice. Talk about an extreme career change. One minute you're a soldier, the next you're fighting for your life against a lion named Fluffy. Training to be a gladiator was no picnic either. These warriors trained in special schools called ludi, where they were whipped into shape by harsh instructors. Picture a medieval boot camp with more swords and less sympathy. They learned to fight with various weapons, from swords and shields to tridents and nets. It was a real-life, high-stakes version of rock, paper, scissors. Despite the grim reality, gladiators could gain fame and fortune. The most successful fighters became celebrities, with fans, endorsements, and everything short of an action figure. Imagine being the LeBron James of stabbing people. However, the path to stardom was littered with scars, broken bones, and a whole lot of near-death experiences. Let's not forget the actual fights. Gladiators faced off against each other, wild animals, and sometimes even exotic beasts from far-off lands. Each match was a spectacle, carefully choreographed to entertain the bloodthirsty crowds. But make no mistake, the danger was real. Many gladiators met their end in the arena, providing one last dramatic flourish for the audience. Interestingly, the life of a gladiator wasn't always short. Some skilled fighters survived many bouts, earning their freedom and even becoming trainers themselves. It was like getting a promotion after years of dodging death. Congratulations, you're now in charge of teaching others how not to die. If you've ever thought your job was tough, just wait until you hear about these underground warriors who faced daily perils to extract precious metals and minerals. Imagine descending into the bowels of the earth every day, armed with nothing but primitive tools and a healthy dose of fear. Roman miners worked in conditions that were about as pleasant as a haunted house. Except the ghosts here were the constant threats of cave-ins, poisonous gases, and suffocation. Cozy, right? These miners dug for valuable resources like gold, silver, and copper, which fueled the empire's economy. The work was backbreaking, with miners often spending long hours in confined spaces, swinging pickaxes and shovels. The air was thick with dust, and the only light came from flickering oil lamps. Forget about ergonomic workstations. These guys would have killed for a back cushion. Let's talk about the ventilation, or rather, the lack of it. Mines were poorly ventilated, making the air a noxious cocktail of dust and toxic gases. Imagine trying to breathe through a pillow while running a marathon. Respiratory problems were common, and miners often had shortened lifespans. It was like living in a permanent smog alert. Water was another enemy. Mines could easily flood, turning tunnels into deadly traps. Miners had to constantly pump out water or risk being caught in a sudden deluge. Think of it as trying to dig a hole while simultaneously bailing out a sinking boat. The tools of the trade weren't exactly user-friendly. With nothing more than hammers, chisels, and basic pickaxes, miners had to chip away at solid rock. No power drills or dynamite to make things easier. The noise was deafening, the work relentless, and the rewards were often meager. And let's not forget about the potential for cave-ins. One wrong move, and tons of earth could come crashing down, burying miners alive. The constant threat of death lurking overhead made every swing of the pickaxe a gamble. It was like playing Russian roulette, but with rocks. Imagine spending your days chained to a wooden bench, rowing until your muscles screamed, all while the salty sea air mocked your plight. If you thought rush hour traffic was bad, wait until you hear about this nautical nightmare. Galley slaves were often prisoners of war, criminals, or even captured pirates. Their job? To row the massive Roman warships across the Mediterranean, powering the empire's navy. It wasn't exactly a cruise vacation. These poor souls were chained to their benches, rowing in unison to the relentless beat of a drum. Talk about a monotonous workout routine. The work was grueling. Rowing for hours on end with little rest, the slaves' muscles would ache and their bodies would break down. Blisters, calluses, and muscle cramps were daily companions. And let's not forget the lack of hygiene. Imagine sweating in the same spot day after day with no chance to clean up. Smells like a five-star spa, right? Food and water were scarce and of poor quality. Galley slaves were given just enough sustenance to keep them rowing. The diet was meager, often consisting of bread, water, and perhaps some gruel. It wasn't exactly a feast, but it kept them alive, barely. Imagine working a double shift at the gym, then being rewarded with a slice of stale bread. The conditions were horrendous. Slaves had to contend with the heat of the sun, the chill of the sea, and the constant threat of storms. The galleys were cramped and stuffy with little ventilation. It was like being stuck in a sauna with a bunch of strangers who haven't showered in weeks. Lovely, isn't it? But the physical toll was just part of the misery. The psychological strain was immense. Knowing that you were a disposable tool, valued only for your rowing ability, was a heavy burden. The constant beat of the drum was a reminder that your life was not your own. It was a rhythm of despair, marking the endless hours of toil. There was also the ever-present danger of battle. Galley slaves were often forced to row into combat, where they faced enemy fire and the risk of being sunk. If the ship went down, the slaves chained to their benches had little chance of survival. It was a cruel fate with no escape in sight. So the next time you're stuck in traffic or dealing with a tough day at work, think of the galley slaves. They rowed through pain, hunger, and despair, all to power the mighty Roman navy. Their job was a grueling testament to human endurance and the harsh realities of ancient life. Here's to the unsung rowers of history. If you thought your job stinks, just wait until you get a whiff of this one. Tanners turned animal hides into leather, a process that was as foul as it was vital. First, let's set the scene. Imagine walking into a tannery. The smell hits you like a wall, a pungent blend of rotting flesh, urine, and animal excrement. This was the perfume of the tannery, where tanners worked amidst heaps of animal hides. It's the kind of place that made you appreciate even the worst office air conditioning. The process started with collecting hides from slaughterhouses. Tanners would then soak these hides in vats of urine. Yes, urine again! Apparently, the Romans couldn't get enough of the stuff. The ammonia in urine helped remove hair and flesh from the skins. So next time you think your job is gross, imagine dunking animal skins in pee all day. But wait, it gets better. After the urine bath, the hides were soaked in a concoction of animal brains, feces, and other delightful substances to soften them. Tanners had to work these mixtures into the hides by hand, often spending hours knee-deep in what can only be described as the worst soup ever made. Once the hides were adequately prepared, they were stretched and dried. This required a keen eye and strong arms. Tanners would pull the hides taut and nail them to frames, ensuring they dried evenly. It was a physically demanding job, and one misstep could ruin the entire process. Imagine working all day with the constant fear of making a mistake that would stink up your week, literally. The physical environment of the tannery was harsh. The constant exposure to harsh chemicals and the physical labor took a toll on the tanner's health. Skin infections, respiratory problems, and general wear and tear were par for the course. Tanners often had shorter lifespans, but they were tough. They had to be to survive the stench and the work. Tanners were also social outcasts. The smell clung to them, making it impossible to blend into society. People could smell a tanner coming from a mile away. Imagine having a job so stinky that you become a walking, talking air freshener commercial for everyone you meet. So next time you complain about a smelly gym bag or a long day at work, think of the Roman tanners. They toiled in filth and stench to provide the leather goods that were essential to Roman life. Their job was dirty, dangerous, and downright disgusting. Hats off to these olfactory warriors of the ancient world. If you know something more interesting, I'm waiting for you in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Bye!